no matter how you look at it, you are causing suffering to everything around you by merely existing in this place. By merely existing, you are imposing suffering on everything around you. Everything. Just merely existing here, you're imprisoning other beings for your survival at every level. So the only option to not produce more suffering is leaving this realm. But there is no viable option to leave. If there was an exit point that you could go through to leave this existence, that would be the answer to ending suffering for yourself and your participation in causing suffering to everything around you. By merely existing, you are causing suffering to yourself, and that suffering is interlinked with everything around you. There's no way out of causing suffering. We suffer and we produce suffering in people and things around us in order to keep our survival going. There is no way around this. By merely existing, you are suffering. By merely existing, you are causing suffering at every level. At every level, you are receiving suffering and you're producing suffering. The mere fact that you have to eat, you're being enslaved by your body. But you also have to enslave other things in order to keep that suffering at bay. By eating, you are causing suffering to the thing you're eating, but also you are causing suffering to the people who bring you the food that you can ingest. You are enslaving the animals and plants, but also you're enslaving the people who have to work to bring you that necessary life force from other things. You are enslaving them by the fact that your body is enslaving you. And the only way out of this enslavement back and forth is to opt out of this existence. That's the only way. Your survival needs other things to survive off of. On every single layer, you need food, housing, clothing. In order to get food, housing, clothing, there has to be people who are enslaved in order to bring you food, housing, clothing. Everything that you do, you need something else to be enslaved in order to bring you what you need to be enslaved. It's a back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. You are enslaved by these things. And in order to receive these things, one needs other things to be enslaved for you. For you, the suffering continues. And because of you, the suffering continues. It is a vicious circle that never ends as long as you are participating in the cycle of slavery, suffering, and existence itself. It's a very hard pill to swallow, because we like to think of ourselves as moral beings who do the right thing, who want to do the right thing, who want to be good, and we want to end the suffering. We want to end the suffering for ourselves. And if we're faced with the fact that we are actually causing suffering, we want to move away from that. We don't want anything to do with that. But if you are being honest with yourself, you must come to the awareness that the mere existence of yourself is perpetuating suffering, not only for yourself, but to everything around you. And you may be a hermit. You may not even be in contact with people, but just merely existing, you need other things to be enslaved for your existence on every level. And it's a sick, twisted game. And there's no way out of this conundrum. There's no way out of it. There's no way that you can exist without the slavery and suffering of things around you. The clothes that you are wearing, someone is enslaved in order to produce that for your survival. You need the clothing for your survival. So in turn, you need someone else to be enslaved to produce that clothing, that survival suit, because you cannot exist by yourself. Even if you made your own clothing, you are enslaving yourself because you have to make it and you have to get the materials in order to make it. The electricity and the water you need for survival, or you suffer. Thus, you need something outside of yourself to provide you that, to stop the suffering from within you. So your body is enslaving you, and you need other bodies to be enslaved in order for your survival. The less suffering that you try to give yourself, the more suffering you inflict and impose upon other things. And the highest level of this, we are enslaved by the corporations and the businesses and the governmental entities that impose their will on us. We had no choice in coming here whether we wanted to participate in this nightmarish dream that we find ourselves in. No, we were just thrust into it. And now that we're thrust into it, we have to play by their games and their rules. Otherwise, we suffer. And because we want to suffer less, we impose suffering onto everything around us. And there's no way you can sit there, I can sit here and say that I am actively doing my best to prevent suffering. Yeah, on a very superficial level, we can lie to ourselves and say that. But at the deepest level of reality, that is false. That is a lie. As long as we're existing and participating in this life, the consequence of that is causing and perpetuating the suffering of not only ourselves, but everything around us. And it's freaking twisted. It's freaking sick. And the only way out of these chains of enslaving others and ourselves is leaving this freaking nightmare of delusions and confusions and illusions and lies. The only way out, the only way to end suffering is to leave here. And the only way to leave here is through suffering, because there is no other option other than to go face that suffering head on with your full intention and will, saying, no, I no longer want to participate in this. Give me the exit door so that I can actually be free, so that I can actually end suffering for myself, and to remove my participation in causing suffering to everything around me on every fundamental level. We like to think that suffering is only caused by evil people, by people who enjoy it, by people who want it, who need it. But if we look honestly at ourselves, we see that we actually need suffering in order to merely exist here. To merely exist, we need suffering to continue. Otherwise, we will suffer. We will suffer without the suffering of everything around us. It's sick, it's twisted, and I wish it wasn't so. But I am talking to you through this technological device that I need to communicate. And that need imposes slavery and suffering on other people to produce it, to keep it going. And yeah, we can say, oh, it's the big tech companies who actually are enslaving us. But yes, that's true. But we are enslaving the workers. We are enslaving those who produce these things for us. They need money in order to exist. They need to fulfill their survival mechanisms in order to exist. So they also participate in the suffering and enslavement of other people as well. It's on every fundamental level. If you really look at it honestly, you will see that there's no way around this. There's no way out of it. Merely existing is not only causing you suffering, but it is imposing suffering on others. Because the fact that you merely exist, you need suffering to exist. Suffering is the root of this existence, and there is no way to not cause other things to suffer as long as you're here. It makes me sick because I don't want anything to suffer. But, like I said, merely existing is imposing suffering and slavery on to everything around me. Everything. Even the pets that you have, you are imposing slavery and suffering on them because you need something from them. You need something from everything around you. And that need must have suffering existing. That need must perpetuate the suffering because you need and you desire. Against your will, you have to participate in this circle, this never-ending circle of suffering to produce less suffering for you. But to produce less suffering for you, you need suffering to happen. Does this make sense? Really get honest with yourself. How can we say that we are moral, good people as long as we are perpetuating this? As long as we are here, we are perpetuating this. I'm not saying to do anything. All I'm saying is to think about this honestly. Look at it honestly. And see your participation and see how wrong all of this actually is. It's all so devilishly designed to keep you looking outside and pointing at all of the bad things that you don't like, while deluding yourself from seeing that you merely existing in it is imposing and causing suffering just merely because you exist in it. I like to think of myself as a moral person. I like to think of myself as a good person. But that illusion is shattered by realizing that it is impossible to exist here and be a moral person and be the highest potential you can be, because the root of your existence is imposing suffering and slavery on everything around you at every fundamental level of it. That's why not one thing can exist here and say that it is a moral, honest, do good, do right being. I don't know how else to say that. Because every moment you are here, it is the imposition of more suffering. It is the imposition of more enslavement. And I know I keep saying that over and over and over. And I know I keep saying that over and over and over. And you may say, well, I'm giving people a means to make money because of my desires, because of my wants and needs. I like to play guitar, so I'm giving people a chance to make guitars for me, and I'm giving them ability to make money to give me that guitar. The monetary system is a system of debt slavery. You needing something is causing someone else to have to slave and work in order to produce that for you. And you yourself have to slave and work in order to buy that thing. You are not giving people freedom by making it possible for them to have a job. Yes, you may say that money is allowing them to suffer less. But like I said, the money system is just a system of perpetual slavery for all involved. No one wants to go to work. No one wants to make money. No one really wants to do these things. We are forced to do these things in order to barely exist, to merely survive, because our body is enslaving us with its desires. And if we don't fulfill those desires, we suffer. If we don't eat, we suffer. If we don't have shelter, we suffer. If we don't have clothes, we suffer. So by merely existing, we have to be forced into slavery. And even if you survive out in nature, let's just say you're out in nature, you have to impose slavery and suffering on other things to exist. You have to get that animal hide. You have to get that meat. You have to enslave the plants to make agriculture. All of these things on every fundamental level is deceiving you into thinking you can do good here. There is a moral way to proceed. You just have to do things differently. No, everything is based off of the suffering and enslavement of other things, of other people. You cannot live merely on your own. You cannot survive by yourself. You need outside things in order to allow you to survive on every fundamental level. And if I am wrong, I'm willing to be wrong, but please prove me that I am wrong. I don't think this can be proven wrong. I think this is the truth. The truth is, as long as we are here, as we like to think of ourselves as these moral good people, wanting to always do the morally right thing, the ethical thing. The ethical thing is impossible in this realm. This is what I like to call the devil's game. The devil's game is they provide you with the illusion of you being a good person, you doing the moral thing, you always acting in an ethical, right way, which does not exist. Does not exist here. I am now under the conclusion that good moral people do not even exist here. Good moral people do not exist. Yes, we could say that we're superficially good, we're superficially moral, but the delusion of that keeps us from accessing the truth that as long as we're here, there is no such thing as a good moral person, because a good moral person would not participate in this. And I'm not necessarily saying it's your fault that you chose to live this life. All I'm saying is look honestly at the situation that we find ourselves in. A good moral person would want nothing to do with this. Nothing. Not one single layer of this existence would a good moral person accept and continue imposing the suffering and enslavement on everything around it. No, a good moral person would say, no, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not participating in a slave suffering imposement realm where by me merely existing, I need other things to suffer. And a lot of people, I feel, will fight this. They will fight this because of their own delusion within themselves that they are a good moral person. And I'm not saying that you don't do good moral deeds and good moral acts. But what I'm saying is the mere fact that we exist in this realm, we are causing suffering on every layer. Yes, we are also receiving suffering, but a good moral person would opt out of this immoral design, this immoral system that produces nothing but suffering. We delude ourselves in thinking that we're somehow changing this place. We're somehow going to fix this or come to some answer that will make us feel good about our participation here. I'm telling you that there is no answer for us to feel good about being here. The only answer is realizing that as long as you exist here, immorality thrives. Immorality functions on your existence here. And it's a hard pill to swallow. It's a hard pill to realize that your entire life you have needed others to suffer for your very existence. And you have directly caused suffering to countless, because of your need for survival. I don't like to think about that. I don't like to say to myself, wow, I have caused tremendous suffering to so many things that are interconnected in ways that are hard to even fathom. But yes, actually looking at it, I have caused tremendous suffering and enslavement. And I have received tremendous suffering, and I have also been enslaved. Whew, it's sick. And where do you go from here other than wanting out, wanting nothing at all to do with this? Nothing. And that's why I find myself every day. Every day I find myself wanting nothing, more and more, nothing to do with this place. And me merely existing today, I am causing tremendous suffering and enslavement to everything around me. Everything, every single layer. And that's how we have been deluded into honestly looking at our situation, honestly saying there is no way out of suffering for ourselves. There's no way out of causing suffering to everything around us. Because the mere basic root design of anything living here needs and produces that suffering. This is the parasite's game. You are a parasite because they are a parasite. This is a parasitic realm, and one has to look at themselves as a parasite as well, because we are parasiting off of other things by merely existing here. This is the conundrum. This is the position that they have forced us into, being just like them, being just like them. They've given us their mind, their desires, their will, and an existence in a realm that they have created so that we can function just like them, just like these parasites that we hate, that we want nothing to do with. We are forced into being ourselves by existing here. There is no way around you not being a parasite, because the parasite is the body, the mind, the will of this realm. That's why the only true solution is ending our participation here. There's no way around it. So that exit door is the only solution. Leaving this realm behind and wanting nothing to do with anything of it. Anything of it needs to be left here. Your participation needs to be left here.